Hey, Dalton.
Yeah.
I think God should kill you. Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew. Alex is here in this video. You will hear him, but you will not see him because he's been beset by a horrible infectious disease. It has rendered him scarred and deformed. He will presumably be back on camera at some point, but he will be a different man. You won't recognize him.
I'm beginning my metamorphosis.
My body is also being... He's the Fly. Of the film The Fly.
It briefly popped up in our recording software. There was a little window over Alex. For us, is just a black letter A because his camera is not on. And it just said actual recording is in higher quality of the black letter A.
It'll be like the SpongeBob with the green.
Hey. Anyway, I have also been beset by an illness, but my illness is having a side effect to vaccines in that I'm kind of tired and my head hurts a little bit. But never fear, we're going to be talking about Cryolophosaurus today. But before we talk about Cryolophosaurus, oh my god, everything has exited my body.
On camera?
We're going to talk about Cryolophosaurus today. But beforehand, there's a couple of big announcements we got to make. First, the people have spoken, and by spoken, I mean they stopped buying anything on our Etsy page. And so Etsy is now free shipping again for everybody. Yes, you all spoke with your wallets. You boycotted the Skeleton Crew effectively.
Well done.
And you have free shipping again. You've forced our hands expertly, I say. So that's point number one. Point number two is that we will be taking a holiday hiatus this year. The reason for this is that all of us are crumbling under the weight of everything that we have to do. And we want to spend a little bit of time just spending time with our families and our loved ones, and also taking whatever time we do have to develop enough of a backlog that we can make sure we keep content coming out throughout all of 2025. The reason we have to do that is that I will hopefully, by the middle of 2025, not be the only person introducing themselves as dying in these videos. In fact, the majority of us will be doing that at some point. But that means that those folks are going to have to take a lot of time. And so we're going to keep the Skeleton Crew running, but we're going to take this little break now to make sure that we have time to get everything done so that it all runs smoothly throughout 2025. You won't even notice that anything is different throughout the first few months of the new year. And then all of a sudden, I won't be the only doctor among us. But right now, I am the only doctor among us. And God damn it, I'm going to make sure you all remember that. My name is Dr. James Napoli, and I am a research instructor at Stony Brook University.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm currently a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History. You will absolutely notice, perhaps, a change in my behavior as that date draws near. And there will be a very stark change, I'm sure, pre and post the whole doctor situation. Yeah, that's all I have to say. I can't think of anything else funny. It's going to be great. It's going to be done, at least.
My name is Scott Johnston. I'm the vertebrate paleontology, fossil preparator, and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology. And if you're afraid of change, rest assured, nothing about me is going to change. I'm going to keep the same title at the same place. And no matter what the future may hold, rest assured that I will be your rock.
Charming. I'm Alex Rubenstahl, PhD candidate at Yale University. And due to the linear nature of time and having started my PhD journey later in time than my friends, I will be the last to be dubbed a doctor of the four on that path. Additionally, that's not true, Scott. One day someone will refer to you in the past tense. So, your title will change there. In fact, someone will refer to all of us in the past tense.
Maybe not you, Alex.
Not if I can help it. Not if my metamorphosis works out.
My name, folks, is Dalton Meyer. I'm also a PhD candidate at Yale University, and I too have been beset by an illness. And that illness is disco fever. And Elvis didn't sing disco, but he had hair like this dinosaur has a head. I don't know. Listen, the rail, you just watched a train of thought derail.
He's been
Dalton has disco fever, and unfortunately, it's terminal.
Yeah.
There is no cure, not even more cowbell. It's a degenerative disease. It just has a funny name.
Yeah, it stands for Dis is seriously killing a you. But
See, everybody, case in point. Pray for Dalton. Pray for our Reverend Meyer.
I feel like we are having in serious problem.
we are having a serious problem.
Oh my god, I completely forgot to introduce myself differently after my recent trip to Romania, because there is no longer just one reverend on the skeleton crew.
Right.
Yeah. It's also a very Reverend Scott Johnston here.
Can the cloth take us all before the doctoring? I was trying to think of a word.
No, I, as you all know, actively refused a cloth of sorts. At the mall the other day, I was approached by a person and given a card
Right.
and asked to join.
You refused both the spiritual cloth and a physical cloth with that blanket.
The mac and cheese blanket.
Oh my god, that! Dear viewer, I had the opportunity to do something very funny but very mean. In holiday shopping at the mall, I went to a store that had these blankets that were packaged. They were like food blankets packaged within food containers. So like the outside container was shaped like the box, if you will, and the inside was the food that is in that box. And they had Kraft mac and cheese, and it was only slightly too expensive for me to get it for Scott to antagonize him. But I laughed really hard, and I did really almost do it.
That does bring to mind that actually right now is the perfect opportunity for Scott to get away with something tremendous, which is that they are selling green macaroni and cheese at Walmart as a promotion for Wicked. They've got green and pink, like little isolated containers of macaroni and cheese.
Like the Easy Mac, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
like
that's so funny.
Oh my god, no, that you're right, because you shared that and I shared exactly what color it was, and you all freaked out because it is the same color as the food that I give the tub of isopods in this room that you can't see. And the name for that is very unfortunate given that we are a PG channel. I will not share it, but if you own reptiles and or insects, you might already know.
We're the skeleton.
We're the skeleton crew.
Let's go. It's time to get crude.
It is.
CREW', not CRUDE. We're not going to be lascivious or oil.
Or part of the cast of that Nicolas Cage animated movie, The Croods.
Oh yeah. So many homonyms. Let's look at a dinosaur.
Well, let's see him come out.
Homophones? I'm not a grammar man.
God, they're so good.
They really are. I like that we have like twins.
Yeah, really, that was very funny.
Twins.
This is a very pretty design. I like it a lot.
Man. James, I know you said this before about some of the other designs, but I think we're going to get the social animation. It's one of my favorites in the game. Yes.
Ooh. That was awesome.
I love that so
That's
much.
great. That's just simply delightful.
They just do a little display dance with their head crest. It's so nice. Oh, man. Yeah, James, I remember when this game first came out, we were playing it just together one night on a call, and you were talking about how this really does seem like it is a perfect Jurassic Parkified Cryolophosaurus. That, like, is it exactly what we know about the animal? Not necessarily, but is it, like, pretty damn close in a lot of ways? Yeah, and it's great. Like, it has some little greeblies to make it look a little bit more monstery, and like some bumpies and spikes and stuff, but it's nothing over the top. It's grounded, it's plausible, and it looks like it has verisimilitude, as you frequently say. It's great. I love this thing.
Well, if you love it so much, why don't someone else tell us what its name means?
I agree with this thing that I said a couple of years ago, Scott. I think I was right, as I so frequently like to think that I am. It's a very, very, very good design, and I think it's a perfect example of how you can make it feel Jurassic Park without losing the essence of the creature, or like changing it so much that it's unrecognizable.
Yeah.
However, I did also reconnect to the internet fast enough to hear Dalton try to segue to what its name means, and I encourage that segue to continue.
Sure thing. Its name, the full name is Cryolophosaurus ellioti, or Ellioti. Cryolophosaurus meaning frozen crest lizard, and Ellioti meaning being after David Elliott, who's the person who discovered it.
Who, unfortunately for David Elliott, even though it's really cool that he discovered Cryolophosaurus, the second dinosaur ever discovered in Antarctica, but unfortunately, he was a geologist at the Ohio State University, which means that I have a blood feud against him, and also go blue, and also read the scoreboard from last Saturday.
You know, for some reason, until today, and this is a mark of ignorance upon me, a pox, if you will, I thought that it was the specific epithet was after the formation it was found in, and I thought it was from something called the Elliott Formation, which it is not at all. It's from the Hanson Formation, and I was wrong.
I've realized I've been reading the name, I guess, kind of incorrectly my whole life, that because it's named after a guy, it would be like Elliot I, as Amelia was saying.
Because I was struggling to say.
Yeah, it doesn't have great mouthfeel. No. But like every time I've read it, I always hear in my head Ellioti, and that's always how I've said it.
It's Italian. That's how you said its name.
Cryolophosaurus Ellioti.
Ray Liotti.
You may have seen Cryolophosaurus in the only film that was recorded before its death, Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Cryolophosaurus.
This would be a good thing to be on cocaine in a movie.
Cocainolophosaurus.
Yes. Well, speaking of snow, where was this?
Hey! Well done. Oh, he made a cocaine
so
joke.
Hard, he died.
So good, he died. James, all that happened was it was just you went to clap, and then just like one clap was like. Oh god.
Okay. Well, so this is probably a smash cut from a really good segue that I made before my computer committed seppuku. And, so I want to talk more about Cryolophosaurus and like where it comes from, because we've mentioned a few times now, and probably more than a few times while I've been in recording lags where I can't hear anything, that Cryolophosaurus is from Antarctica, right?
Indeed.
And that's probably like the thing about it. It's kind of the whole thing.
It's one of the three things about it, basically. It's the from Antarctica, has cool crest. What is it?
Right. And of those three things, let's start with from Antarctica.
Indeed.
Antarctica.
It's from Antarctica.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why everybody thinks that's so surprising. Every vertebrate living in Antarctica is a theropod.
Every one of them, except for the first one that was found in Antarctica, because
I'm talking about
Cryolophosaurus.
penguins.
Oh,
sorry, that was a joke that is perhaps failing on every level because it's too stupid to be funny to scientists, but it's also
not true.
It's also not true because I guess there's also leopard seals and presumably like one other kind of vertebrate species.
Well,
all right. Anyway,
there's one inland bird species living in the Antarctic. Well, not inland. There's one like non-water bird species that lives in Antarctica, and it's like a.
Oh yeah, that's the one that eats them, right?
No, it's it's like a parasite. It's one of those like food. It like steals other birds' food. There's a specific term for the kind of parasite that is.
Kleptoparasitism.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But it's still a
You're right,
theropod.
there's also skua
No, and then there are also the seals.
and
Yeah.
seals.
And then
I didn't know this.
spiders.
There's a kind of bird with the common name, or that are called prions, but they seem to not be misfolded proteins that give you horrific diseases.
They might be.
They're seabirds, but yeah, there's a whole group that are called prions.
I've never seen the birds called prions and a misfolded protein in the same room together. So consider that.
Who comes up with bird common names? I'm sorry for the first Stunlock to be this, but just going through this here, I mean, some of these make sense. Penguin, even though I don't know what the etymology of that is.
Makes perfect sense.
Skua, Jaegers. Okay. Prions? Fulmar? Petrel? Really?
Well, that one's called that because they actually burn really well.
Right.
That's why
Well, no, I thought that was the penguins.
Oh yeah.
Check another emperor penguin on the fire. How about the South Georgia shag? Hey yo.
Give her the old.
Apparently, of all these things that live in Antarctica, there's also a fairly familiar one, the barn owl.
No way.
The Antarctic
There's no
barn.
barns.
Apparently, you occasionally find barn owls in Antarctica.
So apparently penguin, we're going to have a special bonus etymology on this episode. Penguin comes from Welsh, meaning white head.
That's
None
interesting.
of them
What
have
color
white
are their
heads.
Yeah.
Oh, they have like white faces, some of them.
I was just going to continue the thought of I can't think of a penguin. Granted, I don't know many penguins offhand that has like white around the eye. That's what I would consider a bird face, like top bill eye. You know, I don't know. I do not want bird watchers or ornithologists in these comments telling me what qualifies as the face, because I know you guys have like hyper specific terminology for each region of the bird. But I'm just trying to think of like what would be a light face. I guess like little blue penguins kind of have light faces, but most of them have
Chin strap penguins. Also baby emperor penguins.
And the royal penguin. But most of them
I
have
thought
black.
chin straps have black on top.
They have black on top, but
they have hair. They have like hair on their head, and then they have an unfortunate facial hair structure.
It really is kind of
Oh
stupid.
yeah,
isn't
okay.
it?
They have more white than I thought they did. They do literally wear a little helmet. Oh my god.
yeah.
That's very funny.
But baby emperor penguins just do
I know.
have like
I
a
wasn't thinking.
reverse.
I'm not considering babies.
I know. I'm just saying that they have like a
Yeah.
reverse bandit mask.
They're so f***ing cute.
Oh my god.
It's just kind of
Oh,
unreal that something is allowed to be as cute as a baby emperor penguin.
Has anybody checked?
And that flammable too.
Yeah. Speaking of which, has anybody checked on Pesto?
He's got
I forgot
sideburns
about
now,
that.
doesn't he?
Yes. Has he molted? Is he a man now?
He was starting to. He looked like he was. Now it looks like he's wearing a vest. like a hair vest.
Oh, dripped out.
I'll send it. I'll put the image in our Discord so we can post hair vest pesto. Hair vesto, if you will.
I will indeed.
Oh my god!
Look
He's
at
so
him.
dripped out.
He's like Macklemore.
That's a. He's in an '80s band.
He reminds me of that. That AI image from back in the day of Drippy Pope.
Oh. More like Macklemore. That's what he's saying because he eats fish.
Oh my god, you are on fire today, Dalton.
Much as like a dumpster might be, or a large pile of refuse
of penguins.
There's there's another good picture of him where it really looks like he's doing a pose.
Look at that.
He's hitting it.
Man, especially look at the guy next to him. That looks like a penguin that you dragged behind a truck.
Yeah. Pesto's just showing off how much hotter a penguin can be than that one.
You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Wow.
Well, you know where penguins live?
Antarctica?
The same place that this theropod's from.
We found this. And that's how we bring it back.
Indeed.
We're bringing it right back round.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think is kind of funny about Cryolophosaurus is that it kind of got a lot of press for being like the first Antarctic dinosaur, when it's kind of only like technically the first Antarctic dinosaur, as in it's the first one in the literature, because
I mean, that makes it the first one.
Yeah, but it was the second one discovered. By a pretty good margin. So it was beaten by Antarctopelta, which was discovered in So it was beaten by Antarctopelta, which was discovered in sorry, now I'm just in my own head thinking I actually said that Shackleton discovered this. No, so it was beaten by Antarctopelta that was discovered in 1986, but Antarctopelta wasn't described until 2006.
Right, so it was the first one known from Antarctica.
Yeah. And Cryolophosaurus was discovered in either 1990 or 1991. I think 91.
I think 91, yeah.
And it was described in 94. Good year. Very good year. I
always thought Cryolophosaurus had been described a little bit later because I had a feeling that I remembered it as a kid. Like the big news about it. But
I mean,
I guess the news back then kind of reran some dinosaur stories occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, it still does. I still see on like, if I'm ever on Facebook, there's usually a news article of like this new species of dinosaur, and it's from like 2019. I'm like, yeah, news relative. But also, I feel like
Go on.
I feel like as a kid growing up in like the late 90s, early 2000s, you know, it takes a couple of years before these publications reach time to put it in the kids' books.
That's true.
I mean, just anecdotally, I think that we might all have relatives or distant friends that'll send you a news article that's just like, yeah, this new dinosaur just discovered, and it's like Borealopelta or something. I was like, yeah, I know. Or the funniest time that this has happened was someone sent me, it was just like, hey, check out this mammoth that was discovered in Michigan. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was on that dig. I was there.
Yeah, that was me. I got it.
Yep.
Of course I know him. He's me.
Real don't cite the deep magic to me witch moment. But yeah, so it is really cool that this is an Antarctic dinosaur. There are not many of those. But what's even cooler is that it's actually for Antarctica, a very well preserved Antarctic dinosaur. In fact, I might go so far as to say that it's the best Antarctic non-avian dinosaur.
I don't think that's even disputable.
Yeah.
I mean it's actually kind of amazing how much of it we have.
Oh, it's insane. Like they must have, like they really hit the jackpot finding this thing when they did, because like the ice really does play hell with fossils. Like fossils are very delicate. The expansion of ice and like freeze thaw and stuff like that, which even if it's super cold in Antarctica, still can happen. More so nowadays.
Yeah. I think
Yep. Oh, it's happening.
just kind of as a whole, the Hanson Formation, which is I'm sure we'll get into in a little bit, seems to preserve slightly better material than the later Antarctic stuff. Like there's this, I'm just looking at the Wikipedia page for it, and Cryolophosaurus I think is probably the best of it all still. But there is the unnamed little sauropodomorph that has also like a very nice skull.
It's still
Is
a
that,
name.
is that not Glaciosaurus?
No.
Is that a different thing?
It's a different thing.
No, there's
Okay.
But I feel comfortable
that-
talking about it because it has a Wikipedia page.
Oh, that's
Oh wait,
fair.
it does? What's the
Wasn't
Wikipedia
it-
page called?
Well, I don't know if it has
Was
a distinct page, but it has a distinct entry on the Hanson Formation Wikipedia page.
I see.
Is
Amelia,
that
what were you
not the
trying to
one
say?
that was in the Antarctic Dinosaur Special Exhibit, or was that the Glacier one?
I think
I
both
think that
were.
was Glacialosaurus.
Okay, I don't remember because that was a very long time ago. Because I saw it at the Field Museum, so presumably that was like where it opened, which would have been, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, to my recollection,
I
that
think
exhibit had
that-
both.
Yeah, I mean that this skull has been on, right. There's a picture of the skull on Wikipedia. That is pretty. So maybe it is just a Hanson Formation thing. Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing to be
Yeah.
a
So-
formation that preserves good material. Yeah.
So part and parcel with this guy always being talked about as the Antarctic dinosaur has always come with the misunderstanding that means that this was a cold adapted animal. Because,
Right.
I mean, Antarctica is pretty much just a synonym for insane cold nowadays. But you must remember, this was a different time. And the early Jurassic was a whole lot warmer than things are today. At least, again, for the moment. And the early Jurassic, especially for Antarctica, is notable because that means that Pangea was only recently breaking up, which means that Antarctica was a whole lot farther north than it is nowadays. So because it was farther north, that means closer to the equator, which means much, much warmer. Now, I've heard, like, people just say in passing that Antarctica was, during this time, tropical. I haven't seen anything to necessarily say that. It seems like it was more temperate. Like, it still would have been cold for the time. I do believe that there is some evidence, or at least paleoclimate implications, that, like, it could have gotten below freezing, but that would have not been common.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely quite close to the southern extent of the planet, like, even back then. It was
Yes.
not centered over the pole.
No.
But yeah, it is as much a, like, I mean, it's a much warmer climate, but you're gonna, like, still get latitudinal effects, and it was definitely, like, a very extreme landmass.
Yeah. The analogy that keeps getting thrown around is, like, there's a similar climate to southern Chile.
Right.
Yeah.
And that looks about right.
I also
Yeah.
saw like Northern Island of New Zealand.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's far from being an extremely warm tropical place.
Mhm.
No.
At the
If
time.
anything, I would say
Yeah.
that possibly, like, dinosaur revolution or Dinotasia, whatever you want to call it, because it has the Cryolophosaurus in there. If anything, I think it might have depicted it as slightly too lush or too tropical looking there.
Maybe it's
I
hard
don't
to say, and I also don't remember it well enough to
Fair
say.
enough.
Yeah. So spoiler alert. I have kind of played into the Antarctic angle a little bit with putting this on the North America map here, which is in some snowy mountains. This is not to indicate that, hey, this would have lived in like a very snowy, cold environment. It wasn't lush tropical, but there's also not a great, I mean, I know there are the temperate biomes in the maps, but I don't like how they look. And I wanted the mountains for other reasons, which we'll talk about in a bit. And then also this map has an abundance of conifers, which seem to be among the dominant plants. There's actually a pretty good floral record for the Hanson Formation. A lot of plants have been found. And so I wanted to not have to individually place a bunch of pine trees.
I was just looking through the plants and like other fossils known, and I think my favorite one is not a plant, but actually a trace fossil from an arthropod. And it's like two little parallel rows, so they think it was probably like a myriapod, like a millipede or something like that. I'm like, that's so funny and kind of cute.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, so I think like one thing people often don't appreciate in my experience so much about the Mesozoic is just how much warmer the planet was at that time. I mean, in the warmest periods of the Mesozoic, the atmosphere must have felt like almost oppressive.
Oh,
or like,
yeah.
I mean, to a human, right? To something that's not adapted to it. I mean, like, again, this is always my favorite, like, fun fact about it. CO2 right now is a little above 400 parts per million, and like that's contributing to really rapid warming. CO2 at the points of the Mesozoic was about 4,000 parts per million in the atmosphere, which is 10 times higher. You've got no polar ice caps at all. Sea level's really, really high. It's a warm, warm, warm climate. That doesn't mean that everywhere on Earth is the Everglades. I can't imagine what life at the equator must have been like at this point, though. It must have been real, real hot. But then you do have like these environments. Dalton, honestly, I think that this map is a perfect way to depict this kind of like high latitude, but not polar climate.
Yeah, that was my
This is
my goal.
this is the Canada map, right?
I think it is. I don't remember. It's North America. Does it tell me if I? No.
Yeah, I feel like it's. I feel like this was like the British Columbia map or something like that.
I think so.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's another pretty good example of what that kind of climate would be like.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's very cool, and it's cool that we have a fossil record from Antarctica at all.
And from a cool time in Earth history. Right?
Yeah.
Early Jurassic. You don't see that very often.
No.
It'd be nice if you got slightly better fossils.
Just a bit.
But they might be there just under the ice.
Right. Well, we'll get them eventually.
No, guess so.
Yeah. But what we do know about the Hanson Formation, where Cryolophosaurus was found, beyond that, there are a lot of plants, and beyond kind of the temperature proxies that we've been talking about, there's other proxies in the plants that suggest it was probably humid, or at least like seasonally humid. So, I think honestly, yeah, like a New Zealandy or maybe even a Pacific Northwesty kind of vibe wouldn't be out of the question for it. Maybe a little warmer than that. But we, lithologically, guess where we are, folks? It's a braided river.
Oh my God.
It is a reduced sinuous, so it's not like very S-shaped. It's not making tons of curves. It's decently straight, but it's a braided river. There are some lakes, some that are permanent, some that are apparently seasonal ephemeral lakes, where flooding will splay things out. Pretty standard dinosaur stuff, pretty standard fossil forming unit. But what is cool is that there are a lot of siliciclastic sediments, which means that they are silica rich. And the lithology of those sediments, their shape, their size, their chemical composition leads us to suspect that nearby to where the Hanson Formation was deposited, there were volcanoes, or at least one volcano, but that were producing what are called Plinian type eruptions, which take their name from Pliny the Elder, who witnessed the eruption of Pompeii. So these are actually explosive volcanic eruptions, big pyroclastic flows, devastating events. And it seems that they were happening, and then the sediments from those volcanoes were being deposited in the Hanson Formation, which is the other reason I chose this map, is that there's a lot of mountains, and then there is this like multi-tiered elevation system for it, which I like playing on when I play the game normally because I think it makes fun parks, and I just ignored the bottom. But I used the top to make a little volcano here, and to explain my diorama that I had some fun making earlier. We've got some rocks that the volcano threw around. And I tried to the best of my ability, because you can't get rid of these plants on the side of the hill, but leave this part of the map a little more barren of trees compared to this part, and make a kind of a recovery flora, where if you're familiar with the idea of these kind of recovery floras of after volcanic event, and you see the same thing happen after the asteroid hits in the Cretaceous, you wipe out the plant communities, and the first thing that come back are like lichens, mosses, and then you get ferns, and you kind of slowly rebuild up your plant communities, but you don't immediately start growing like big trees. And it's a pretty established pattern that you see on islands, be that islands where the plant community is destroyed, or islands that are just emerging from the ocean de novo and have no plants on them yet.
Is this a distinct concept from like primary succession, or are they like synonymous?
I always thought that was synonymous, like succession. Yeah.
Yeah, that is. I couldn't remember that particular term. But
well, no, I mean, I would say like, I haven't heard the phrase recovery fauna be used, but I mean, or flora rather, but it seems like they're basically the same concept,
I think I may have made that up, to be honest.
Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Well, not the phenomenon, but just the term.
Right. I do like the term, though. So regardless of whether recovery flora is a term that you'll see anywhere but a Skeleton Crew video, I think it's a great term. So thank you, Dalton.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, especially like after a disaster, right? Like the primary succession thing, I think like strictly only should be used when like the ground did not literally exist before. Like when it's a newly forming volcanic island. Like my vague recollection from ecology courses is if there was ever a community there, then it's secondary succession. But I think what you're saying also applies, right, where it's like you actually mimic the patterns of primary succession after something like volcanic eruption.
I think primary succession is still used after volcanic eruptions.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because you need the lichens first to actually create soil. Like that's the idea, and that is why lichens are first, because they're the things that are actually able to break down rock and make soil, and then you can get actual plants because they need that. And yeah, you go from there. I don't know if it's always mosses first, but like because mosses require humidity and all that other junk, so it's not necessarily always mosses that come next, but it's almost always lichens first because it has to be, because plants can't turn rocks into soil.
Right. There was going to be some attempt at a joke or a pun there, but it didn't happen.
The only joke that came into my head was first they came for the mosses.
If it's Italian, they're making Lorenzo soil. Lorenzo's oil joke.
Wow.
That should be cut.
No, it shouldn't. That's really funny. Well, that's a perfect segue, I guess, into the other interesting thing about Cryolophosaurus, which is what kind of dinosaur this is.
Hello.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, Alex.
I come to you from the inside of my chitinous chrysalis, speaking through a fluid medium of mucus and amniotic fluid.
You got any Kyle in there?
Yeah, and Kyle.
He's in a back to chamber, or whatever those are called.
My flesh is more like liquid, and my bones more like flesh. I am becoming beautiful.
That was heinous.
Anyway, I also am able to perceive from this state all things as they are, and will be, including the phylogenetic position of Cryolophosaurus sometimes, maybe. So, Cryolophosaurus is one of our earlier diverging theropods in the game. Potentially the second earliest diverging theropod in the game, depending on whether Herrerasaurs are theropods or not. So, upon its original description, it was...
Wait, even Coelophysis? Sorry.
I said second.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, I thought you were saying second if you think that Herrerasaurids are theropods.
Yes.
So I thought that was implying that it would be first if you
It would
did.
be third if we included Herrerasaurs.
Okay.
You are not inside the chrysalis. You do not see all
I
things.
apologize.
You have not been welcomed into the chrysalis.
Anyway, yes. So when it was originally described, it was thought to be possibly a very early Tetnuran, or like the sister group to Tetnurans. And the Tetnurans, for our viewers, are the theropods that include megalosaurs, allosaurs, and coelurosaurs. So much of the group, just everything that's not ceratosaurs and really early coelophysoids. But, pardon me. But more recent phylogenetic investigation has found them to be, while more derived than coelophysoids, so not quite as advanced as Tetnurans. In fact, it appears that Dilophosaurs are more closely related to things like Allosaurus and Coelurosaurs than Cryolophosaurus is. We don't have any postcranial skeleton on this, right?
No, we do.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
A bit.
Do we have hands? I was curious about how many fingies.
I don't think we have hands. I'm checking the monograph right now.
There's a neck, I know, right?
There's a...
Ooh, that's not a lot of bones.
Yeah, there are cervical vertebrae. Not a lot of them.
There's a pubis.
There is.
There's
Okay,
there's
the
a
only reason I
pelvis
said
and a
so. It's
femur.
entirely
Yeah.
possible that this animal would have had like 4 digits on its hands, like ceratosaurs do,
Right.
and like Dilophosaurus should. And I don't think this model does. Enhance.
No, it has 3 fingers.
And kind of the general construction of this model suggests a more Tetnuran affinity, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
The risks go the right way, at least. And like, that I think it was found as recently as like 2014 or 2015 as a Tetnuran, as like sister to Tetnuran. So like, that's fine. It looks good either way. Spoiler, but it does have a nice long, low body like early theropods do, which I'm enjoying looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Long neck, too.
Yes. That's really all I got to say in regards to phylogeny, unless anyone else has any other thoughts.
I was just going to bring up the thing we perpetually raise, which is like the early to middle Jurassic is when a lot of evolution happens. I think this is probably preceding the big burst in diversification that we infer happened when nobody was looking in the fossil record.
Yeah, this thing is splitting off from the rest of the clade probably in the Triassic, or the lineage that becomes this. Because, yeah, I think the oldest Averostrans are early Jurassic. So if we're saying this is earlier than that, it's likely showing up by the late Triassic, maybe the very, very, very early Jurassic.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is happening before what we in the business like to call Coelurosaur madness.
I'm always having that.
James exists in a perpetual state of Coelurosaur madness.
I will now return to the silence of the fluids.
Well, thank you for joining us from the fluids, Alex.
Rest well, King. Well, I think that kind of leaves us with this critter's flagship feature.
The Lofo in the room.
The Lofo in the room.
Do you mean its large crest?
No, in my brain, it just... just came in the she cry on my loaf till I'm sore. And that's one of the worst ones I've had in a while. Oh, God.
That Scott, I gotta hand it to you.
Bad.
I hate that a lot.
I call
me
it my
too.
loaf because she wonder at my bread.
Hey, Dalton,
Yeah.
I think God should kill you.
Oh my God. Okay.
And so anyway, the loaf of thesaurus.
Yes,
kills all of
yes.
us.
Indeed,
That's his
he
job.
does.
Thank you, Alex.
So, yes, the flagship feature of this critter, that crest, or should I say those crests, because I have seen this alternatingly reconstructed as having one pompadour crest like this guy does, or like the analogy that I made in the TikTok that I did about this at the end of Dinovember, which we have a TikTok and we did a Dinovember thing, and where we did 30 days of little known dinosaurs with big stories, and you should go check those out and also follow our TikTok because we're not just going to post once a year. We have plans for other things.
This is true. You know what nobody has also noticed about our 30 days of Dinovember?
What?
That there are only 29 videos.
Shut the f- up. Don't let them see the man behind the curtain.
They will never see.
No, but so the analogy that I used in the Dinovember TikTok is like it's almost like a tiny little ceratopsian frill, at least from aesthetics, because most other crested or head ornamented theropods, they're either just straight up horns like Incarnatoris, or they are at least in line with the direction with the skull. Think like Dilophosaurus, like the early Tyrannosaurs, like Guanlong and Proceratosaurus and stuff like that, or even the horns on something like Ceratosaurus, where they're blade-like, but they're laterally compressed. And Cryolophosaurus kind of bucks that trend with having this crest or these crests kind of curling up and transverse to the skull there. And I think that's really interesting. And so, James, you've had the osteology open.
I do. Yeah.
Is this one crest or two?
It's two. It's
two?
one on.
Okay.
It's one from each lacrimal bone. And the lacrimal is interesting in that in theropods, it seems that it is like compelled by forces beyond its own comprehension to become an ornament of some sort. It understands its purpose, and it says, "I need to become a display structure of some kind or another." So, the lacrimals are going to be involved in Dilophosaurus's head crest. Those are mostly not from the lacrimal, but the lacrimal seems to be involved. Very famously, a lot of allosaurs, tyrannosaurs, they'll get these horns that we often refer to as a cornual process, but I kind of just like the phrase lacrimal horn myself. On the top of the lacrimal. So they get those kind of triangular horns. Carnotaurus obviously also has horns in that region. And so this is yet another flavor of a way you can evolve a lacrimal crest, it seems, or a lacrimal ornamental feature, which is in this case, the top of the bone is like curling and then smearing transversely over the skull roof. So you've first got like kind of an extension of the two parts on each side of the skull, and then it's all wrapping medially like that and curling. It's very strange.
What's going on in the midline?
They're approaching, and I believe they are contacting, but I think there may actually be a small cleft. It's a little deformed in that region, and I'm reading right now to see what they think the actual anatomy is.
Because like what I'm getting at is are you getting like nasal or frontal contributing to the middle,
No.
or these things are wrapping up and over the other? Are they going? Do we know if they're going up and over the other bones, or are they just plowing through?
They're going over them.
That's
And
awful.
What I don't know is if they're actually contacting or if there would have been a space.
Yeah.
I don't know which of those is less weird.
I don't like any of it. The fact that they're going up and over other bones is not right.
Yeah, like I think that at least personally, I would say that like if they were contacting, it would look less weird. But if they were individual crests that were not contacting, it would just be anatomically less weird. Like this looks correct for this animal.
Yeah, let me see what it looks like again. Yeah, this is like... I do think there's probably a gap in that these were kind of two flared things that were sitting like over the head. Although, God, it doesn't actually say clearly in the part of the description I'm reading right now.
It looks like it's broken right where we would want it to not be broken, so it's hard to say.
Yeah.
And they don't figure it from the front. It's not... Oh, they do.
You know, it's not... It is not... There's no gap. It's just smeared right over all the other bones.
Have they CT scanned this thing?
They have. I've never seen the CT scan. But I know one exists.
Man, that's goofy. So I guess in life...
So there's no gap. But there may have been a gap between the two.
Yeah,
it may be that they didn't touch. Yeah.
In life, even if they did touch, it wouldn't necessarily have looked... Well, it almost certainly wouldn't have looked like this, where it looks like a continuous, like, frill.
I think it would have looked more like a continuous frill. I think, except for on the midline, because I'm not clear on whether it's contiguous across the midline. So it may have been that there were two of these paired features that were narrowly separated.
Yeah, like what we see on like the dinosaur evolution is they have two crests that kind of like touch in the middle.
That would be my interpretation, because it does not seem obvious to me that there is a direct like contact of them. But again, I'm still reading. Yeah.
But also, even if that was the case, if these were covered in some sort of keratin material or something like that, I imagine like it wouldn't be a single sheath of keratin that was covering both of them.
I feel like
I just
don't think so.
Don't think developmentally that works.
That's what I was going to say. Is I think if it was a single like plate of keratin, that they would have to meet, the crests would have to develop, meet, and fuse pre like hatching, like embryonically, and probably pretty early. But I don't know for sure that that's the case. That's just my kind of gut check.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily that they were covered in keratin. They could just be covered in like larger scales or something.
True. Yeah. What's the bone texture look like?
I can't see in enough detail.
Yeah, I can't either.
What is true is that it is like kind of corrugated, so it's got this folded and ridged appearance. That is real.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
What? Dalton, is your lip bleeding?
Same. No, it's not. My mustache.
Okay. I was just like, oh Jesus, he just ripped his lip.
No, a long portion of my mustache descended into it, and it made it look darker.
I think Dalton's facial expressions there were in response to you saying it has a corrugated and ridged appearance, and me saying same.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear you say same. That's it. It corrugated for female Cryolophosaurus' pleasure.
Hey, yo! Oh, say the line. They were display structures.
But and in this case, I
certainly.
Yeah, there's very little else it could have been.
Yeah, I fully buy that these are strictly and solely display structures in this case. In fact, I keep referencing the dinosaur evolution thing because it is. Sorry, it is one of the few media depictions of Cryolophosaurus that I know of.
I know of another.
What's the other?
The video game Primal Carnage.
Oh yeah, where they have it as an alternate skin for Dilophosaurus.
Yes, and the model in that game, while very aesthetically pleasing, does not really resemble the known material. I would say that the model in Jurassic World Evolution is actually much better. But in Primal Carnage, the crests do not meet on the midline, so there is a gap between them, which is probably right.
Yeah.
I will say, I've just been trolling the web, as the kids still say, for images of just various depictions of Cryolophosaurus. And the model that was commissioned for the Antarctic dinosaurs exhibit, which was presumably consulted on by people who've seen the fossil firsthand and have worked on it, has them together at the base and then diverging a little bit at the top.
Oh, interesting.
Like two Pringles chips.
That's often what I think about this, is that it's two Pringles. I'm glad you said that.
Huh. Well, what I was going to say about the dinosaur revolution thing is, I rewatched that sequence a little bit ago, and I like two things about it. Number one, I think the designs are very pretty. Actually, three things. I think the designs are very pretty. Two, I like that they make it do the leaping lay laps thing when they're fighting. And three, I think it's, while a common criticism of that documentary being that the dinosaurs are very what's the word?
Anthropomorphized.
Anthropomorphized. Sorry, I left my brain for a second. Especially in this one with the challenger Cryolophosaurus coming up and challenging the smaller male in front of the female, and the female at one point just nudging him and going get him.
Yeah, go fight.
It's very funny. But after the smaller male is defeated, the larger one rips off his head crests and throws them on the ground.
You won't be needing these anymore.
What a wild show this was.
Wasn't it? James, are you watching it right now?
I sure am. Yeah. I did also like the kangaroo kick they have them do.
The kangaroo kick's also fun.
That is based on a piece of Greg Paul art from Predatory Dinosaurs of the World depicting Dilophosaurus as a kangaroo.
Oh my god, it is!
Yeah. Because they're clearly doing a lot of
paleo art references.
Getting a lot of a lot of paleo art references, but this depiction in that segment is clearly aping a lot of Dilophosaurus in particular. Which is, I think, reasonable, given its potential placements. I think the idea that it was a more kind of lightly built animal like Dilophosaurus is not unreasonable. But I think we're also kind of learning that Dilophosaurus may not have been the slender, lightly built animal that we thought it was.
Yes.
Which is interesting.
Well, shall we? Do we want to take this thing to the species viewer, unless anybody else has anything to say about it?
To the viewer we go.
Viewer.
To you, viewer.
Yes, and while we have your attention, dear viewer, I didn't exhort you to do this before, but if you've been watching this video and you were thinking, man, I really like this video, there's actually something you can do to show us that. You can like the video.
You can mail us $10,000.
You could mail us $10,000 to $20,000.
That'd be cool.
It would be great.
Not to the skeleton crew. Each of us individually.
Yeah. No, actually, there is a way you could do that directly through YouTube. YouTube makes it very convenient. You can just give us a super chat if you like the video.
Oh,
it doesn't have to be done on a stream. I find this to be a very weird feature that YouTube allows you to do, where somebody can be like, yeah, I did like that video. Here's $5.
Which has happened approximately 3 times since we've had the channel.
We have gotten a few of those, and it is always a pleasant surprise.
Yes, Amelia.
But also, side note, if you actually want to give us money that YouTube then doesn't take 30% of, we also have a PayPal tip jar.
Indeed. We do.
Yes. And that is active when we stream. And streaming is not just the thing that Dalton is doing to us right now so we can see Cryolophosaurus. It is also a thing that we'll be doing at some point in the near future, in the new year, because we hit a milestone recently that
Yes,
we're
we
very
did.
excited about. That milestone is 10,000 subscribers.
Oh
Look at
my
us go.
god!
Whoa!
Yeah. I've got a side note about that in a moment, but I'm absolutely humbled. I did always think that we had the right stuff to be successful at YouTube. But the pace with which that has happened and the amazing engagement and support we've gotten from everybody have been beyond really my wildest dreams. And to be at 10,000 subscribers really feels like a huge milestone. I feel that comfortably takes us away from micro creator tier to just small channel. I don't know. Which is cool.
We've
Great.
been upgraded from micro to small.
Yeah, well, listen, it's a milestone nonetheless.
I'm on board with you.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is really cool. I feel much the same way that I did when we hit 1,000 subscribers, where I was just like, how is this really happening? So it's very cool, and thank you all very much. And we will be celebrating with the stream. If you are a patron with voting privileges, we have a poll on our Patreon right now where you get to determine which of us suffers during the stream. If you want me to suffer, you can vote to play Jurassic World Evolution Challenge mode, and all of you can criticize my gameplay abilities while I try to simultaneously run a stream, manage its vital signs, play a game, and answer questions about dinosaurs. I would like to see you try that, is what I'm saying. But thank you all for your criticism of my gameplay. You could choose the option in which Alex suffers, and we force him to play Path of Titans with all of us.
God, please.
Or you could choose to make...
It
Or you
won't
could
be
choose to
Alex
make all
alone
of us.
suffering.
No, yeah, we will all be suffering.
It's more fun to wander around an open field, just like in real life, because at least you're outside.
But why would you go there? You could also choose the option where none of us suffer and we play holotype or a board game of some sort. But anyway, if you're a patron with voting privileges, go vote. If you are not yet a patron but want to vote in this, go become a patron and then go vote. Anyway, that's enough of that. I think it's time to rank this little guy.
I think so.
I'm trying to think of anything to say at all, because there's not, because it's bad. It's the opposite. I love this. It's very good. And this skin in particular is perfect. I love this with the speckles, and there's even speckles on the crest, right?
Yeah, it highlights the big feature scales on it, which I do think that is also a neat feature, that they don't give it a keratin crest. It's scaly.
Which feels right.
It does.
No, I love it. I think, as we said earlier, it's kind of the perfect blend of matching what is known from the material, as well as having some fun with it and making some artistic decisions, which I am all for, especially with the Jurassic designs, because, I don't know. I tend to like the more fun ones. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm going to give it an S. It is just great. It's got the right vibe about it. It looks good. All of the colors slap. And I like the little bird dance that they do.
I agree. And so you gave it S tier?
Yeah.
I'm also going to do that. I love this guy. We were saying this before in the choppy section of the video where I have no idea what was actually said. But it is a very, very well done Jurassic Parkification of the design. This feels like something that would have been very much at home in the initial Jurassic Park movie, which would have been cool. I'm disappointed that they never used a design like this in the franchise, because it's distinctive and it's cool and it looks good. And it does justice to the animal while having some flair of its own. Great color patterns, great animations, very cool addition to the game, and overall very plausible. I think that a lot of interpretations make the head longer than this, but we don't really have a lot of constraint on that. And so I think this is a very plausible overall vibe for the animal.
I also S tier, absolutely. If anything, it ends up reminding me a bit of how Dilophosaurus is described in the book. Where like it is like on the slightly larger side. And I believe that they do mention that it constantly is like bobbing its head up and down when it's like eyeing after Nedry and stuff.
They do mention that, yeah.
And so I always kind of pictured it doing that kind of sort of dance thing like that. I love this so much. It's great. It is a perfect design for this animal, despite being not, I guess, the most like conservative reconstruction of what it actually would have looked like. But I love it. And Dalton, you did absolutely pick right. The white speckles are the way to go on this, which I do have to say is a little bit sad, because I do like the colors that have the patterns that have more of a vibrant pop of color on the crest. But the white speckles on the side just look so good that I end up picking that one every time. It's an S. It's wonderful. I love it so much. And now off to the man in the tank, or the chrysalis. Sorry.
This is an easy S, folks. It's a slut. No, it's very good. It's not a DLC design. This was in the base game, right?
Yeah, base game.
So yeah, absolutely goated. Beautiful. Would I like it to be a little bristly? Maybe have some feathery action going on. Sure, but when it's this pleasing to the eye, it doesn't matter. That's an S tier Cryolophosaurus there, folks. That's all I got to say. I like its animation too. Now I'm silencing myself.
Silence you. It's my turn to rate Cryolophosaurus, and I'm going to shock the world by giving it an S as well. This is a really, really great design. It's one of my favorites from the base game. It's awesome. I feel like I had never quite seen a Cryolophosaurus depicted like with this particular vibe of skull and this particular vibe of crest, and I really like it. And yeah, like Scott mentioned, it's not quite as long in the head as often reconstructed. And
that was James.
Oh, sorry, as James mentioned, yeah, I'm totally fine with that. Like James said, like we don't have the front of the head, and we're going off of vibes based on not even the world's tightest phylogenetic constraint. It's I think people should have maybe more fun with how they reconstruct the front of the head, and they even did give it the notch. They gave it the little like early.
I love that detail.
Early theropod notch. It looks really great. As you saw, as I was trying to decide the colors, I was spoiled for choices and what looks good. I just went with this because I also like the speckled sides, and I thought that this base skin contrasted that nicely. But you know, you can have all kinds of fun with this. And I even, as a kind of theropod osteoderm hater, I'm not convinced that these are osteoderms. These also look like they could just be feature scales, which helps alleviate me. And B, I don't mind them so much. I like them. If I had to get rid of anything on the design, it'd be the ones immediately behind the head. I think those look a little bit like a toy, maybe. But beyond that, I mean, it's just nitpicks. Alex mentioned how kind of long it is. I really like the proportions of this. It stands out amongst all the theropods in the game, and not just because of its funky crest, but just because it looks kind of strange. I think they really did a good job here. Definitely S tier.
Okay. Well, that makes placement easier than it's been in a hot minute. It's unanimous, folks. A resounding S tier. Fantastic.
Yippee!
Well deserved.
There we go.
Wahoo!
Alrighty. And now it's time to hide all the ads.
Wheel.
Oh, look at that. Man.
Scary.
Our wheel is quite barren.
Indeed. Well, let's see what it gives us for the next time when we Spin that
Wheel.
wheel.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
Wow,
That's a good next
All
one.
That's
righty.
very solid.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we will talk about Parasaurolophus. And this week I'll only talk about one more thing, which are names. I'm going to give you names. These names are of patrons of the Skeleton Crew. They keep us going. They keep us supported. They keep us financially solvent.
they keep my house hot.
The keepy worm.
They are going to be rewarded because I have finally accrued the funds necessary to buy a new computer. And finally be able to
Huzzah.
do basic tasks for the Skeleton Crew, like stream a video game properly. So thank you all for that. As of this recording, we have a few patrons who are in the tier where they get a verbal shout out at the end of the video, and those patrons are Insert Nickname, Benjamin Seepser, Philip Fico, Christopher Bellis Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adam Molos, Blacklight Virus, Black Spectral Pig, Amphibia, Chaotic Kaiju, Dino Dom, Kevin Preem, King Zashu, Life Finds a Way, Ryan Wants to Die, The Wigster, Touch Connors, Wanderer, and Wheat. Thank you all so much for your support of the Skeleton Crew. We've got really interesting names going on also at the end of our patrons list here. I really do like the Wigster and Touch Connors together. It's great. I enjoy all of you very much. And by I enjoy all of you, I mean I'm very appreciative of the support you give us, but also I'm overtired and need to be sedated immediately. This reminds me of at SVP this year when on the last day of the conference, after much alcohol had been imbibed in by many, I was approached by a colleague who will remain nameless, who said, James, I really just want to say I've always found your talks so anatomically delightful. To which I said, what do you mean? And he very kindly said, well, no, you just get me so excited about all the anatomy and everything. It's like you just have a wonderful way of showing it. Thank you. And I said, that's great. But that phrasing was something else. Anyway, thank you all. And you will catch us next week when we talk to you about Parasaurolophus.
Indeed.
Bye-bye.
Bye.